And I served, my total years were from 1957 to 79.
Okay.
Vietnam and the Gulf War, Desert Storm in 91.
51 to 55, served in Korea, joined the Air National Guard in 74, and retired from the retired reserves 1992.
World War II, Korea, Vietnam.
Wow. I didn't know that. I joined out of high school in 64 and got out in 72. I was in the Strategic Air Command. I was a B-52 crew chief and flew 27 combat missions out of Thailand, Okinawa, and Guam. Yeah, I got trained as a tank commander at Camp Ripley. Got stationed in Germany and Kuwait. So 96 was my actual dates, but I only put actually 16 years in, including the guards.
I'm Ronald Frink, F-R-I-N-K. In the Air Force in 1951, served in Korea, got out of the Air Force, eventually joined the Air National Guard in 81. Let's see, was it 81? No, 74. And I transferred from the Air National Guard to the Army National Guard at Camp Ripley in 81. And I served at Camp Ripley in ISU as air traffic controller. Actual date that I transferred was the day that they started bombing Iraq on the Gulf War. But they didn't tell me they were going to start bombing on the day that I transferred. But I went into the inactive reserves until I was 60 years old.
And after that, I was transferred to an aircraft carrier. And while I was on the aircraft carrier, it was in Shangri-La. It was in 1962. They thought I had a bleeding ulcer.
Yeah.
So I was disqualified from submarines. And my first ship that I got signed to was a destroyer. And I never got transferred. Great duty. Very good duty. I switched from the west coast to the east coast, and we went out on patrol, went up off Russia, and submerged and stayed submerged for 66 days without ever surfacing. A little longer than that, but we stayed submerged for 66 days. That was under Thomas Jefferson.
He was so numb by then after being in 3 wars that it didn't bother him.
And after that, then I went to an LSD over in Vietnam again. And then I came back, and then I got shore duty in Alexandria, Minnesota. And I was a recruiter out there. I set a national record for a one-man station. I enlisted 27 in one day.
Oh, wow. You must have been giving out money.
No, but I mean, my brother was in the Navy, and he told me that submariners, you know, if they got to be like 6 feet above, they had other duty. They never were on the subs because the ceiling height was so low that you'd hit your head either on pipes,
or
wires, or cables.
I never had that trouble. I guess I knew enough to duck after time.
Good one.
Yeah.
43 to 46, and listed in the CBs, and I don't think transferred is the word. I think shifted would be the word to use, shifted. Anyway, shifted to what would you call a firefighting department? Well, anyway, forget that. But
But just
anyway,
the World War II you served in?
yes.
And
Plan of the day, and your name is there, and you get your barracks bag packed, and the truck is out here, and you're going and learn to fight fires on the ship. Don't ask me where we were going to fight these fires. I don't know, but we learned to fight fires on the ship. And it wound up in the Charlestown Navy Yard in the winter. But he had no foul weather gear, and they put three of us with I think they call them ship fitters in them days or something, I forget. But this crew put the shaft, they built a lot of destroyer escorts there, and this crew that they put me with put the shaft, put the bearings in the shaft and the prop on. I never seen the job started and never seen one finish. You don't do that, you know, in just a little short while. See? And we were in the well, you guys call them the barracks, but anyway, the limey soldiers, the English sailors, and the Canadian sailors, they don't really hitch. So they had us on the, I forget which one's on the first deck. We was on the second deck anyway, and the third was. Naturally, there was a little brawl every night. I mean, you got to be doing something, you know what I mean?
Testosterone check.
And it was the shipyards there, and the fire escapes, you know, and you know these big, deep janitorial sinks, you know, deep. So. And these guys would be coming to work, etc. and etc. We'd get balloons, fill them full of water, and we'd stand out in that fire stick. And here a guy come, you know, coming to work, and we'd bombs away. Geez, they got narrow-minded about that. But anyway, we list names. Whoop, Melville. What the hell is that? Melville, Rhode Island. PT school. Now the farm kid is going to war. Whoop-de-doo. Got through school. Got your bags packed, and we went to Baltimore. I think that's when we got on the ship. But when they say they don't shift you, they can't shift you.
Oh, that's not true.
No, boy, they can do anything they.
I went Amarillo Air Force Base. I was just a young kid, married with a 2-year-old, and I went for a mobility bag check. You carried a mobility bag during that time. They loaded us on a plane, shipped us to California. 3 days in California. Off to Guam, 6 months, and all I did was kiss my wife on the cheek, says, honey, we're going for a mobility check. I'll be back in a couple of hours. She didn't see me for 6 months. You know, that's the military, you know, up and gone, overnight. And she didn't know for 3 days because they weren't telling anybody where the troops were because they were shipping them.
That kind of falls under that need to know.
Yeah, need to know basis. And she was my wife and did not have the need to know.
The tender that I was on, they could pick up.
Woody, how come you keep calling them ships?
But
I
anyway,
thought they were PT boats.
I'll square you away.
It's a flagship and a PT boat.
I was going to tell this smart guy. A boat is any vessel that can be hauled on a ship. And that goes clear back to the sailing days,
Okay.
but forget that. But anyway, the tender was on, we could pick up a PT boat, warload and all, about 55 ton, get something. Put her up on the deck, can always tell when one of them 90-day wonders got his can shot at,
That's a second
because it
lieutenant.
couldn't maneuver fast enough and scrape barnacles. You only did that one time. Scrape lay underneath there. Well, anyway.
We wouldn't know anything about them sailing boats because you're the only one that goes back that far.
PTSD is a post-traumatic disorder, and these young men and women that are serving right now, this is such a physical and a mental transition for them to be deployed, brought back, deployed, some of these have done this 4 times.
4 times.
And I'm a believer that if they're needed to serve, if it's a 2-year window, do your 2 years and come home and rotate another 2 years. It's too hard on the families, the employers, your kids. Some of them are born, they don't even see them until they're like, 18 months old. And but when you look back at some of these battles and whatever that went on, all the men that, like you say, when they went enlisted, they gave them a gun and a new pair of boots, and you hit the front. And nowadays, we've got these high-tech weapons. I'm so grateful because my kids served at Desert Storm, and we figured, they were going to have all these trenches with oil, that when our troops went across this, they were going to set them on fire and burn up our troops. But we had all that high-tech weaponry that, I tell you what, if there was ever a man that I'd want to go back and serve with, it'd be Schwarzkopf. He had the news media so buffaloed that they had no idea what was going on. They thought we were going to come in from Kuwait. And my son was in the Marines, and he says, Dad, I can't tell you anymore where I'm going, but he says, you understand clicks. We're going so many clicks west and so many clicks north. His MOS was, his life expectancy was 2 seconds if something went wrong. Because he was a bulk fuel specialist. They'd dig a hole in the ground with a cat. They'd lay in, like they use the term water bottle, only they called it a fuel bladder. They'd lay that in there and they'd pump thousands of gallons of fuel in there. Got all these tanks and stuff that get like about 6 gallons to the mile. Nobody could figure out how all these tanks were going this fast across the desert with no gas stations. Well, the Marines already had the gas stations there. They were in the ground. And the fuel trucks and the Harriers and all the helicopters, they all went to these fuel pods all the way along the way. Now that Schwarzkopf, he was a smart man.